Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Aura News broadcast. It's now time for our daily English news edition, Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. The plenary session is expected to resume after being interrupted just before midday because of the negotiations between parties over the decriminalization bylaws. The Democratic and Socialist parties have reached an agreement which is now expected to be adopted in Parliament. It's been reported that the parties agreed upon most of the points of the self-declaration form. The negotiations were held between the Socialist Party MP Talant Bala and the Democratic MP Awerd Bulukbashi. The majority agreed to include the Prime Minister and the other ministers, including those that are not MPs, in the self-declaration form. They are still discussing whether the ministers, MPs, and high officials who have changed their names must also fill out the self-declaration form. The Democratic Party is asking for all identities to be self-declared and for the responsible institution to make all the necessary verifications. The bylaws must be passed in Parliament by March 6th. The emerging refugee situation has caused the EU High Representative Federica Mogherini to change the agenda for her visit. She will now be staying in Tirana for only a few hours. She will be holding a number of meetings with state leaders to discuss the refugee crisis and the realization of the integration reforms for Albania. Mogherini will meet with the Assembly Speaker Ilir Meta at 6:50 p.m. and later she will address the Albanian Parliament at 7:15. After this, she will meet with Prime Minister Edi Rama and President Bujar Nishani. Her spokeswoman has announced the issues that she will address while visiting Tirana. She is expected to meet with a number of high leaders in the country and some party reps, she said. The bilateral relations between the EU and Albania, Albania's European perspective, the important reforms, and the refugee crisis will be the focus of her meetings, said her spokeswoman. Mogherini's short visit to Tirana comes at a time when the Prime Minister has raised doubts about whether Albania will receive refugees, and also when Italy is on alert that the refugees may use the Italy-Albania route. The spokesman of the European Commission has denied this idea. He says, these are scenarios of which we are not aware. We don't have any information about this to share with you at this time. The Interior Minister Saimir Tahiri spoke in the same line when he was asked about the refugees. He has been called to an urgent meeting on Friday by his Italian counterpart to discuss the refugee crisis. The Minister of Justice, Uli Magnani, was the first to react to the Ambassador Liu's statement today that the U.S. will deny entry to corrupt judges and prosecutors. Minister Magnani said that he will make all the appropriate arrangements to get the list of corrupt judges from the U.S. Embassy. He promised to initiate proceedings against the people on the list and dismiss those who are accused of corruption. As the Minister of Justice, I want to say that I am willing to start the procedures for the dismissal of every judge or prosecutor whose name is on the list. I want to thank our partners for their support in the fight against corruption, he said. When asked about the list of corrupt judges and prosecutors, Magnani responded that he does not have it, but he will ask the U.S. Embassy to give him a copy. Yesterday, the U.S. Ambassador Donald Liu said in a video conference that the embassy has a list of corrupt judges and prosecutors to whom they will refuse to issue visas. The U.S. Department of State has publicized a report on the production and trafficking of drugs all around the world. In the report on Albania, the Department of State notes that Albania is still a primary producer and supplier of marijuana and a transit country for cocaine and heroin that is destined for European markets. The report highlights that the Albanian authorities have recorded an impressive string of arrests and seizures against drug production and trafficking networks in 2015. This success may be attributed to continuing regional cooperation with the Italian police surveillance units and greater commitment by political and police leadership to prioritize anti-drug enforcement. With the exception of cannabis, Albania is not a significant producer of illicit drugs, chemicals, or synthetic drugs. The report notes that the Albanian government does not keep statistics on the prevalence of drug use. Except for marijuana, illegal drug use does not appear to be common. Referring to the Albanian State Police, the report notes that in the first 10 months of 2015, the volume of confiscated marijuana totaled 6.87 metric tons. The police also destroyed 689,815 marijuana plants on 44 hectares of land as identified by Italian surveillance flights. The report further states that the Albanian State Police, including the Border Police, arrested 827 people for offenses linked to drug trafficking over the first 10 months of the year. Through September, the Serious Crimes Prosecution Office investigated 188 criminal proceedings for narcotics trafficking. Of this total, 105 cases were carried over from previous years, with 81 cases registered for the first time in 2015. The prosecution sent 40 cases to court, and the Court of Serious Crimes rendered 68 guilty verdicts, including cases that were resolved from previous years. Albania continues to receive assistance from the United States and the European Union countries to enhance its counter-narcotic capacities. The United States continues to provide assistance for integrated border management with a focus on maritime border control, counter-narcotic investigations, and assistance programs for the justice sector. To reduce the demand for illegal drugs with the U.S. support, the Albanian State Police and the Albanian Ministry of Education continued to co-sponsor a drug awareness and demand reduction project in 300 public elementary schools, reaching over 30,000 students. The current Interior Minister Sajmir Tahiri and the former Minister Flamur Noka have both commented on the report of the U.S. State Department. According to Minister Tahiri, the report is a positive assessment of the government's fight against narcotics. He said, "The U.S. Department of State has praised the government's efforts in the fight against drugs. I noted that the success is the result of maximum commitment, and that the commitment of the police brought results. The assessment encourages us to continue on the path we have started, to reformat the state police and to improve our services." When asked to give his opinion on the finding that Albania is still a country of origin for marijuana, Minister Tahiri had this to say, "There is no country in the world that is not." On his part, the former Interior Minister Flamur Noka felt that the report was a step backward. He said, "The report confirms that Albania and its people are being governed by gangs and traffickers. Instead of hiding out of shame, Tahiri is shamefully showing off, along with the Prime Minister," said Mr. Noka. The Socialist Movement for Integration is going to receive consultation services from an American company called Global Security and Innovative Service. The company will advise the SMI on major issues like the justice reform and issues related to transparency, economic development, agricultural development, security issues, and more. The head of the SMI parliamentary group announced that the party will be getting advice from this respected company in order to always be coherent in their policies and actions that concern the country. He said, "These are issues that require qualified assistance. For this reason, the SMI has decided to seek assistance at the highest possible level." Vasili added that, pursuant to the commitment of transparency, the SMI has publicized some changes to its budget because of the contract with the company. The governor of the Bank of Albania, Gent Seko, held a meeting today with the directors of the second-level banks. He issued a direct call to change the lending situation in the country. "I recommend that you do not continue to be held hostage by the same old practices of failed loans," he said. "I recommend that you draw the appropriate conclusions and increase communication with your headquarters. Explain the Albanian reality and the investment opportunities. Convince them that there are many activities in which lending is safe." The Bank of Albania is not satisfied with the current situation. The numerous reasons and claims that may arise cannot justify apathy or lack of appetite for investment risk, said Mr. Seko. The head of the Association of Banks also spoke about bad loans. He said, "Bad loans continue to be a significant problem for us. Although the level of non-performing loans has decreased this month, we are not actually collecting debts, but simply deleting balance sheets. The execution of collateral is another problem, and it needs to be strengthened in order to reduce bad loans. The latest data from the BOA shows that the level of non-performing loans has decreased by about 5%. Despite this positive indicator, the lending marked another drop in December of 2015 by about 2.6 billion lek. That's all of our news for this evening. Thanks for watching, and please join us again tomorrow at the same time. Have a great night.